Um, it says I'm live, but it also says up top here that YouTube is currently experiencing some issues with their APIs that might prevent some users from going live on the destination. So I don't know what that means. I guess we'll just play through it. Let me make sure that I did sign in, but no, of course not. It always, I did sign in. Really, I did. But it always seems like I've got to sign in while I'm live with you. Okay. Railtown was down further today, but of course it's back essentially to flat, but they have it just down enough that it's red, so you get depressed. And I've really got to emphasize to you that their goals are very short term and they want to scare you out. You know, that stock that Ward mentioned yesterday, which I would not chase, and I wouldn't have chased it yesterday, but it's now 232. 2 days, it's an AI stock, but I think it's AI just to trap the shorts. I think it's a rigged controlled, manipulated buying as well. So anyway, they work. It's 222. It was 13 cents the other day, 2 days ago. But I really wouldn't chase it because it's bigger than you are or I am. Railtown is down 0.0001 at 27.39. Fingers down 5 cents at 91 cents. And guys, girls, I've seen Finger rally from low prices and do incredible moves. But you know, one thing that might be different this time is they have to raise money. And they've had to raise money for a while. I don't know. It's your call. GTII is 0.01. If any of you participated in running that up to 5 cents, you learn your lesson. These are all stocks to stay away from. Railtown's down here in the over-the-counter hellhole, but Railtown has $6 million in cash. They don't have to do a toxic financing. And Railtown's on the verge of such explosive revenue growth that you can't even imagine. You've never seen anything like it. Some people are saying it's the best stock in the world. They've never seen anything like it. I can't imitate Trump. MTEN is down 0.015, 119.5. The market is really showing, I think, resilience. The Dow is down 352, NASDAQ down 200, S&P down 44. But unless Putin threatens to strike Mar-a-Lago, I think the United States tonight is going to participate in the greatest war crime since Nazi Germany. I mean, there's plenty of others, Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Stalin after World War II. But this is going to be a beauty. And it's not in a good way. It's going to define, like I've said, this will be the line between before and after. And after is not going to be fun for the United States. And it doesn't even matter what Trump does now. It's already too late. He's already crashed his presidency on the shoals of Benjamin Netanyahu's lies. And Benjamin Netanyahu does not care about Trump. He just cares about his agenda. If you've ever dealt with guys like these, they'll smile and say what you want to hear, but they're just manipulating you. They're just trying to get something from you. And that's all Benji Netanyahu is. Well, that AIXI is up $1.50. It's pretty good for people who traded it. It's a nice move. We do have today a bit of a milestone. Now, I caution that the numbers I think I keep accurately, and I don't know everybody's position. I don't write everything down, but there's, it's not audited. Let me put it that way. It is not audited. But we now you have crossed a threshold that's amazing. 19 million shares of Railtown. 19 million shares of Railtown. That's incredible. I don't even know if you can call them delays, but maybe my false urgency, you could probably say that, has led everyone to believe that everything's taking so long. But this time, and with the price down, and with the counterfeiting of shares, it's allowed us to build 19 million shares. I don't think you understand how valuable this is going to be. The war could screw it up, but the war's going to screw up everything. 19 million shares. It's going to be incredible. And if we stick together, we can really build something. But today, today is April 7th. My father would have been 92 today. 92 years old. Yeah, that's where we are. I don't feel like anything's going to happen with Railtown this week, but it could come at any time. There's always a possibility something happens, say Monday next week, but it just feels like we've got another week or two. But I don't know where I'm getting that feeling. Maybe even 3 weeks. I don't know where I'm getting that feeling. It's just speculation. But that's great. I think it's great because it allows us to buy more shares, but it also, when now Railtown's down a penny at 26.54, it's on sale, boys and girls. You can still essentially get almost 4 shares of Railtown, 4 units of Railtown for 1 unit of finger if you add a little bit of money. And they're going to cross paths. Finger and Railtown are going to cross paths. And they'll be 1 for 1 briefly. And then one will go one direction, the other will go the other. Would you rather have 4 units or 1 unit? I was going to make a chart. I didn't do that, but we can try to look at a chart. We've got about an hour to go. I do want to check on war. We're going to go to war. Well, we are at war, but we're going to bomb. Apparently, we're going to bomb an entire civilization out of existence. And that is an evil on par with anything Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Genghis Khan, Caligula, the devil himself. But no one speaks out about it. Iranians are people. They're not animals. Ray Stevens fell and broke his neck. Everything is beautiful in its own way. Oh, and he wrote Misty. That's an old song. It doesn't look like anything's happened yet. So there is hope. There is hope. Iran vows to further try and control flow of oil goods amid Trump's chilling annihilation threat. It's a shame Railtown's taken so long, because I had decided just to focus on Railtown, to be clear with everybody. And I still remain convinced it's the correct path. But silver and gold, platinum, palladium, they're where to be. And I've had an oil project. It's gone now. 100 million barrels of oil for $17 million. $17 million to control that, cash flowing in 6 months. But my money never came. And frankly, I think he thinks my judgment is askew because I've remained so steadfast in my my support of Railtown. The news doesn't talk about war. I heard, but I see it's a problem. We don't have any honest news anymore. Our news is owned by Zionists. That's one way to put it. But our news is definitely controlled by the bankers and people who support Israel. come hell or high water. And Israel, the United States, is going to wreck our entire economy and our entire reputation on 5 million disgruntled people. But don't let anyone call us anti-Semitic. History will note that the United States is not anti-Semitic. When have we ever been anti-Semitic? Maybe back when we hated the Irish and the Italians too. I don't know. Back when everything was run by the upper stuffy ecomorph Brits. But it seems like the United States has a terrific record in welcoming people of the Jewish faith and the Jewish culture. Seems like. But I guess we got to go bomb the bejesus out of every country that Israel can't get along with. You know who that is? Everybody. Israel can't get along with anybody. Nobody. Unless they're trying to manipulate them like they did Trump. But let's just go on to look at the price one more time, look at the volume, and then we'll talk about Railtown. I'll get your comments first. Railtown is 20,000 shares today. That's it. 3,000 shares, I don't know, about 10 minutes ago. Hit the bid. Had to get out. 3,000 shares, 26.54. So one manipulator, one criminal, in my opinion, sold $800 worth of stock, just had to get out. And it prices everything in the red. It makes all of us feel sick. And we all go, oh my God, this is another GTII. It's not. It's not. Remember, the person who just sold 3,000 shares at the bid, they always want the worst price because they're trying to manipulate the price of the stock. It's illegal. But the banks are in on it. The hedge funds are in on it. The attorneys are in on it. The regulators are in on it. Ann Wagner at Congress, she's in on it. They're all in on it. They're stealing from you and me. But Railtown's going to bite them in the rear end. But it doesn't matter. We don't have to be angry with them. We don't have to hope it bites them on their bottom. We just have to accumulate. And then as it goes up, hold. Do not sell. That's how we get back at them. And then when we have 19 million shares, let's say 19 million shares goes to, you want to go with my number? 55 smackers. We have $1 billion. Collectively, we have $1 billion. You know, that's a lot of money. A young guy like you is going to make a lot of money. If we collect, let's say we do, Railtown buys us, and we get 8% yield. Not Railtown, sorry, Thales buys us. We'd earn $83 million a year collectively. We could fund our own lobbying firm. We'd be earning $7 million a month in income at 8% if Thales bought us. pretty mind-boggling numbers, isn't it? All right, let me go through your comments, and then let me go try to show you Ward Richardson. I think I might have something, but I can't remember. Ward Richardson sent some really fascinating pieces, which I will share, and it will get us thinking about what's coming. You know, there's an internet out there, for example. We're using it now. You know, we're using a link to YouTube and a link to there, and we're using the internets, as George W. Bush called them. Well, I'm sure it already exists, but it's going to become full-fledged, where there'll be an internet, and it might run on the same tracks, or it'll be parallel, but there'll be an internet where agents, agentic agents, AI agents, go to websites built by other agents to communicate back and forth with agents. They don't need us anymore. They don't need our websites anymore. And they can communicate lightning fast. And they spend tokens. And in that environment, which I think is going to, I read it to you, but I think it has the potential of making Anthropic the world's wealthiest company, unless the guy's mental. But I think perhaps accidentally, the tokens that are going to be used, and they'll be used by agents, are really a currency. And they meet the definition of currency more closely than crypto. It's fascinating. Hey, there's our friend, 52,500 shares for sale at 27.5. He can never get those shares off. He had a chance all the way from 70 cents, and here he is still trying to sell them. Poor bastard. We're now 26,900 shares. We're down 1.5 cents, and you're looking at it and going, oh my gosh, it's down, it's red. Remember, they don't know the story, and they don't care. They just want that 5% today. That's what they want. Doesn't matter to them what the story is. And for some reason, Bill Clinton thought this was the way to run a railroad. But you know what? George W. Bush didn't give a damn. Obama joined right in. Biden was asleep. He belonged in a home, still does. And, Trump's like Bush. Donald Trump and George W. Bush, identical. If he attacks Iran tonight, he's as bad as George W. Bush attacking Iraq, who had nothing to do with 9/11. 9/11 was probably Silverstein in cahoots with the Israelis. But we fall for it every time because we can't be anti-Semitic. I don't think we are. I'm not. I am definitely anti-Zionism as it's currently being practiced. That guy can't sell his stock. Now he's lowered his price to 27.3. He's got 52,500 to sell. The poor bastard just can't get out of his position. He's been selling 52,500 shares for 11 months. Poor guy. What a hapless dude. All right, let's go through your comments. E. Belanger. That's amazing. You're the first. E. Belanger, 0.365 Canadian, hard on the nerves, time to add. You know, you actually, I don't know if you meant to do it, but you bring up a really good point. When you're investing and if you've done your homework and you know the story cold, oftentimes the time to invest is when there's a pit in your stomach and you're going, oh my God, this just feels terrible. But you know the story, you know the value. Railtown, just from the transfer of the spending of the AIP network on hyperscalers, if they just transfer that spending to TELUS, you're going to make more than 36.5 a year in 100% revenue per share. But that's, you know, no one knows that story. No one's looking at it. It's under $1. It's being crushed. But when that comes out, Eric, because you know that's coming, that's just one source of revenue. Because you know it, you're acting, you're buying. When finally everybody knows it, it's going to be everywhere. It's like Bitcoin. When I was in London for 2 or 3 months, Max Kaiser was talking about it. It was under $1 a coin. Of course, I was such a pussycat. I didn't act because it was too confusing. You know, what's a hard wallet? What's this? So I put 75 grand in a silver company that 15 years later, I still can't get the shares. And it's worth, they have plenty of silver, but you know, it's probably worth 15, 20 grand. I put it in silver, which I actually had to sell to save a real estate deal for all my investors. They all got, well, there was 2 different deals. One, they got all their money back. One of them, the hard money guys, I won't tell you their characteristics, but they took everything. But it did stop it limited the liability. But I had to sell everything. So, oh God. But anyway, I also anyway, I should have bought the Bitcoin. But shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know. Anyway, at that time, nobody understood Bitcoin. I did. No one else did. I didn't buy it. But now everybody talks about Bitcoin. Everybody's in Bitcoin. Silver, I started talking to you about silver. It wasn't on anybody's mind. A lot of you bought silver. Silver's now triple what you might have paid before. And people are starting to talk about silver. But it's still not everywhere. Still not everywhere. I don't know what's another analogy. ChatGPT, the AI analogy. Corey and Marwan were talking about AI and raising money for years, and no one understood it. Then ChatGPT comes out, and now everybody understands. Well, most people, the boo birds don't, and the heaviness doesn't. But most people understand the magnitude of AI. Anyway, that's in general. Specifically, that's coming for Railtown. You know the story of Railtown. You were early. You've built your positions. And eventually, when the revenue becomes clear, just from one, they control 200 companies as a network. They bought them. They own the AIP network. Just on maybe 200, 250 million in annual spending on other hyperscalers, that's going to come to TELUS at 20% maybe. Might be more, might be less. We don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. But just picking 20%. You might have 50 million projectable annual revenue from just that one source. That's 100% profit. And when you take, let's take 50 million projectable, and you divide it by 213 million shares outstanding, this will give you a higher number than, because it might be 215, 220. We don't know the fully diluted number. We'll get it probably soon. Actually, today I'll look. Maybe they've filed on the CSE today. It's due. But anyway, that's 23.5 cents a share US in 100% revenue. So it's not quite worth where the stock's trading. But man, call it a quarter. You get a quarter a share every year, year in and year out, of revenue, net revenue, cash flow, and profit, and you're paying 27 cents right now for the stock. And it's from one source. You know it. The broader market doesn't know it. But when it finally has that aha moment that breaks through to consciousness, however that happens amongst human beings, but it does. Silver was sitting there forever, and then all of a sudden everybody knows about it. It'll happen here in Railtown, but you've already got your position. And I mean, I think a quarter of revenue from one group of companies is probably worth a multiple of at least, I'd say 20x, 25x, 35x. Call it 20x. That's $2 a share, I think. It's $5 a share. It's $5 a share. $5 a share. That's what's coming. And you're going to be in it first. But you got to resist selling. Resist selling. E. Belanger added 1,400. Good for you, my man. Who says Canadians aren't real men? Nobody. Nobody says that. E. Belanger. Added 1,480. Good for you. Hey, Jeff, number 2. Good for you. Fast Eddie comes in at number 3. Good day, Dollar Bill. Pat M. Hi, William and all. Scott Day. Scott Day, good afternoon. I'm going to add. Good, Scott. I think it's great. T. Alex. Hello, everyone. How are you, T. Alex? Donna M. Hello, William. Hi, Donna. And everyone. Louis Shotland. How are you, Louis? Hi, William. I was fortunate. Wow. At 26.9. Unbelievable. Good for you. I'm going to write that down. $4,083 shares at Wow. That's so cheap. 269. Good for you, Lewis. Bravo. Gunner. Hello. Hello again. Hello. I just called to say hello. I think about you every night. You're there at home. I'm here alone. Hello. March, now 4th, that's not us. March 6th, that's not us. March 27th, that's not us. November 29th. All right, so there's no filing, at least so far today. There might be one after hours. So we'll keep an eye on that. So TLX earnings bill, until then it will go down and maybe a little further. After that, look out. Estimated to release its next earnings report June 3, 2026. Expected to cover Q2 ending March 31. Well, I don't think it would take till June. I'll have to differ with you. I think normally you would expect, but I'm not contradicting you. You may very well know. I just differ with you. I'd say 45 days after the end of the quarter that you're looking at May 15th for earnings. But I wouldn't get so, you may be right that the stock goes down until earnings, but I wouldn't count on it. But the chart, I was going to get a chart ready and I forgot to. Let me just look at it. It doesn't look strong right now, but that can change fairly quickly. But so you may have a point. I just don't think it's going to stay down for 2 months. I don't see it. Yeah, the chart doesn't look good. However, it's starting to set up, if you frame it that way. If it took, let's say for the next few days, it traded down, it went to the right and downward, maybe to 25 cents. I mean, that's obviously where they're trying to go. And that guy who sold 50,000 shares, he's going to have another chance, but he's burned. He won't do it again. The fact that it's come back down, in his mind, he'll say, I was right. It's going to be the most expensive opinion he's ever had. But anyway, I think depending on how the shape of it looks, it's building a wedge, a declining wedge. And those snap back like a rubber band, band. So, you could be right, T. Alex, that it's going to go down a bit longer. I mean, if I didn't know anything about the stock, or that there could be some sort of event at some point, I think this stock, the chart, it's going to go to that gap at around 26, maybe 25 and 7/8. It's hard to see here what the exact price is. Yeah, something like that. And they'll keep the pressure on. It might go to 25. It might go straddling 25. Won't stay there long. It will not stay there long. Now, if it came down there today, I don't think you have a wedge. Just looking at this. I mean, I'm sure technicians out there are better than I am. If it came down there tomorrow, I don't think you have a wedge. But if it came, let's say it took till Friday or next Tuesday, I think you would have a wedge, a declining wedge, which is extraordinarily bullish, very bullish. But it, so you're probably right for another week, assuming there isn't some bombshell of lifting the blackout or the censorship of information. The volume's very low. It literally is like pulling a rubber band, stretching a rubber band. And the goal of the heaviness is just to get that last penny, to get another penny and a half. They make money. But when it snaps back, they're gone. Or they pull back on selling and they try to do it again. And they're doing it, this isn't the only stock they're doing this to. They do it to every stock in the over-the-counter market, every stock under the ever-expanding rear end of Adina Friedman, every stock on the over-the-counter market of the smiling, giggling CEO, Charlie Cromwell, Chuck E. Cheese, Cheesehead. Yeah, I would say the setup for Railtown is to go to the right and a little bit further down, and that's going to set up a snapback of really powerful move. I think it'll stop at 40. Well, no, I guess the first stop would be around 31 cents. But anyway, once it gets through there, it'll stop at 40 cents. It's my guess. Prediction, not promise. T. Alex, more time dad at a discount. I agree with that sentiment. Some people might argue, T. Alex, that the stock should be at this price because we don't know. But I don't agree with that. We have a perfect comparable. It's almost like you're comparing your house and the one right next door to you just sold. Langchain, it's almost identical, as my dad used to say sometimes, because he came from upstate New York. 92 years old. I think he'd be appalled, absolutely appalled by Trump and what the United States military is being asked to do. But I can't speak for him. I guess I should just speak for myself. All right, let's see what, it doesn't seem to be trading according to the chart. But right now the bid is 26.04, the ask is 26.72. The volume now is 33,900. And they did get off 7,000 shares. They got off at 26.4. Just had to get out. Had to be out. Give T Alex, it does give you a chance to buy it. And I do agree with you, it's a discount. Others might disagree. They want to see more information. I would argue when the information is broadly disseminated and understood, the stock's up 10, 15x from here. So we have to act. We have to have the courage to buy. And that lump in our stomach, we have to, that's a good signal. It's you're taking a contrary stance, but you know why, and you know the story. It's perfect. It's a perfect setup, in my judgment. Hi, Silver Skyrocket. He says hi, William. Silver Skyrocket. The Form 7 came out yesterday. I don't see it. Silver Skyrocket. Let me look again. I just looked. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right, but it's not on the website. Let me look. March 4th. Form 7, March 6th. But today's not March 6th. That's a CSE filing. I'm looking at the, let me go to the, I'm on the CSE website. I don't see it. Maybe they'll update it after, after 4 o'clock. Silver Skyrocket, I don't know where to go find what you're seeing. I'm on the CSE website. I believe you. Don't get me wrong. Investor resources, company disclosure, news and events, bulletins, notices. Yeah, I don't see it. I'll just keep looking, Red Pepper Ronnie. I'll just keep looking, and maybe it'll come up after the closing. Yeah, I just don't see it. But you're right. It's due right now. 100 miles per hour. Each broker uses their own BDOs and venues so they can trade to each other and create artificial liquidity. So 100, each broker uses their broker-dealer operations. What's BDO? Let me look it up. Those in the know use BDO. BDO meaning in business, well, in finance. BDO Global Professional Service Network, Bidner Jiker Ott. And of course, there's the BDO accounting firm. What does BDO stand for? BDO Global. I don't know. Binder Seedman International Group. Now it's Binder Dijaker Ott. I don't know what BDO stands for. Broker-dealer operations. Each broker uses their BDOs and venues so they can trade to each other and create artificial liquidity. I would say that's correct, except I don't know exactly what BDO is. But it's fake, and I think they need retail to at least grease. It's like having your knee without cartilage, bone on bone. The two computers on both sides are bone on bone, and when retail's in the middle, it greases the whole thing. And that's why I think they come into places where there is some volume. And it's not something I set up. It's not something the company sets up, but we get angry at the company or angry at me. It's just the system is as corrupted as it can be. Each broker uses their BDO. Silver skyrocket. Can you screen that the 52.5? Sure, I can show it to you. I don't have to. I can show it to you. I don't have to screen it. When it comes again, it'll come again. It's right now with 10 minutes to go. It's 26:05 to 27:13, but it's moving around. I think the term you guys use is grocery store checkout or something, but it's just moved boom, 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 boom. They want you to think there's a lot of stock for sale, just like 100 just pointed out. It's all artificial. But there's 12.5, there's 62.5, there's 83, there's 62.5 again, a different 62.5, 12.5 again. And the 52.5 isn't there right now. But next time it comes up, I'll show it to you. And they just move it, little bit. And it's all so that you panic thinking there's big sellers. But they never sell on the ask, ever. If you go buy, you try to buy on the ask, they give it to you in between. In between the eyes, they give it to you. Scott Walkowitz, how are you? Silver skyrocket, my mistake. Pakistan urges Trump to extend the deadline for 2 weeks. I hope Pakistan prevails. I hope Pakistan prevails. Silver skyrocket, I saw the March 6th, but forgot it's April. Yeah, okay, I get that. I've made that mistake before. But silver, it's due on the 6th of each month. So today's the 7th. They'll probably file it after the close as of the 6th. And they're pretty, what's the word? Reliable on getting it out on time. So it's 26:05, 27:04, 27:01. Now it's stalled at 27:04, 27:48, 27:44, 27:37, 27:34, 36, 31, 28, 26. They just want you to think everybody in the world's trying to get out. It's all spoofing, spiffing, spliffing, splitting, shiting. Silver skyrocket, so embarrassing. No, it's not. It's not embarrassing. It's not embarrassing at all. It's a common mistake. All right, I think I just saw the 52.5. No, 62.5, 62.5, 62.5, 12.5, 12.5, 62.5. But okay, 100 miles per hour says read above. Okay. Each broker uses their BDOs, broker-dealer operations, or their block desk. I don't know. In venues so they can trade to each other and create artificial liquidity. Maybe BDO is their computers. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure you'll answer me. Nope, no more answers. No more points of view. All right, so let me get into what I was going to show you. And I think it might just be all I have is what Ward showed me last night or sent to me last night. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful weather down here. A little nippy, but it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous weather. So we've got 6 minutes to go. Last trade 26.4. They have the stock down 1.5 pennies. That's 5%. They love it. They're now up to 85,000 shares. And they just have to get out at the worst price every day. Always out at the worst price. Don't give up. Don't let them win. They're just messing with you. All right, maybe this is the start. Okay, yeah, this is what Ward sent me yesterday. And there was a typo, so it says Railtown, but it really means Railtown. So it's the full stack. Sovereign AI, hardware, data model, and application layers. Application layers is where Railtown is, tailored to specific geography or to a vertical. Sits at the strategic center of the modern semiconductor industry, not off to the side. Where Railtown, it's a typo, and they fix it, the next answer. AI plugs into chips. At the component level, Railtown AI requires, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the computer. It might mean something else, but this will devolve into Railtown. AI requires dense compute. It requires GPUs, DPUs, MPUs, PUs, and, etc. on the U's. Advanced memory, HBM stacks, and highly optimized I/O and packaging, all of which are now the highest value threads inside the semiconductor value chain. National or regional scale AI factory initiatives directly derive demand for leading edge nodes and advanced packaging, pulling fabless vendors, foundries, and OSATs into long-term capacity share agreements. How this reshapes, here's the 52.5. Here's the 52.5. See it? 52.5. It's always there. 27.9. 52.5. Never gets out. Never goes away. The poor guy can't sell his stock. Of course, it's just a spoof. I think it's communicating with the other bad guys too. So anyway, because AI optimized workloads are so power and memory hungry, Railtown, again, it's a typo, AI stacks push the industry toward chiplets. I had never heard what a chiplet is. It's in the semiconductor field. They go toward chiplets, 3D stacked memory, and heterogeneous integration instead of one big monolithic die designs. This shift rewards players investing in advanced packaging and EDA tools, while commoditized sub-16 nanometer logic fabs get squeezed unless they participate in AI-specific ecosystems. In the AI era, control over capacity is becoming as valuable as classic IP. In the AI era, control over capacity is becoming as valuable as classic IP, especially for sovereign style AI stacks that want to guarantee supply. This is why you see vertical integration deeper into memory, packaging, and even in-house chip design with Railtown. AI relying on bespoke, tailored chiplets and accelerators which match their energy, security, and speed constraints, latency. So it just closed at 2655, the volume 86.5. Somebody just had to get out of 400 shares at 2655. And that AIXI is collapsing. It was as high as 271, and now it's 182 on the bid. You have to beware these plays. And if you ever play a short squeeze type story again, let other people pump it, you dump it, get out while the getting is good, and take it off your screen. Or if you see it and you could have made more money, just say, oh, well, at least you made money. So Railtown closed down 0.0085, down 3%, 3.1% at 0.2655. Okay, down here, if you look here, if you come down here, right here, when you say Railtown AI, you are effectively pointing at initiatives like Railtown AI, a Canadian-anchored sovereign grade AI stack tied to a specific geography, a Canadian-style AI factory, rather than a pure global cloud AI model. That framing is exactly where rail, energy, data center, and semiconductor interests intersect. Don't always trust everything you're reading. If they're talking about rail as like choo-choo trains, I don't buy that. How Railtown style AI maps to semiconductors. In a Railtown-esque Canadian-centric stack, the AI layer is built around Canadian-sourced data. In other words, rail networks, energy grid telemetry, local language models. Built around sovereign compute, that's on-premises or nation-branded data centers, and built around hardware accelerated inference/training tailored to niche workloads, which they list. And I don't think you need to hear it. To run that stack efficiently, You need AI optimized chips, GPUs or NPUs for distributed training and inference, high bandwidth memory, and chiplet style packaging to keep up with the latency sensitive rail ops and grid control workloads, secure enclaves, and possibly RISC-V or ARM-based control plane silicon for edge-to-core monitoring. This pulls Canadian and North American partners into the semiconductor ecosystem. Fabless design houses, for example, 5G, telecom, smart rail, industrial IoT vendors evolving from custom AI accelerators, for example. US and Canadian wafer thin, wafer fab alliances, and then local packaging. For Railtown style projects, capacity is effectively a strategic asset. Long-term wafer allocation deals with foundries lock in supply for AI optimized SoCs powering all these things. Canadian-backed co-design centers would iterate on AI chiplets turned to specific workloads, and they list a bunch of workloads. This flips the old model. Instead of Canada just consuming chips, and remember, this is the campaign in Canada, instead of Canada just consuming chips, you start seeing Canadian originated AI workloads leading to Canadian defined chip specs, which leads to North American aligned capacity. Once you have a Railtown scale AI stack, and you have to assume that these chat things can make mistakes. So I believe they're talking about Railtown, the company, but they could be talking about something in their own head. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It is talking about where Railtown sits. Once you have a Railtown scale AI stack, it can feed back into the semiconductor design and fabrication process. Agentic AI tools accelerate floor planning, power integrity checks, and yield prediction for AI ASICs. Digital twins, that's where you create in the computer, and they're talking about a rail network here. I think they're literally talking about choo-choo trains. But, I mean, it's a realistic use case. But you can have a twin where you can try your pattern, and if the trains crash, no harm, no foul. But anyway, you can have synthetic workloads and stress tests of the AI chips under real world conditions virtually. And it's a huge thing. And Railtown orchestration frameworks, all part of it. Think of this as vertical integration blueprint from user case to silicon. So the top layer, Canadian sovereign AI use cases. This is where Railtown AI lives. Predictive maintenance, crew schedule. See, I think they're talking about the railroad. But what is powerful here is that agents can build chips, and then those agents and chips can have other agents building other chips. And my understanding is humans don't have to be involved. And you need the Railtown orchestration layer for that. But I can't help but think when they mention Railtown here, they're talking about rail. So the AI infrastructure layer, data centers, and the edge of the compute, that is Railtown. To support those use cases, you build core AI factories, pools of regional data centers tied to Canadian-owned or Canada-friendly operators, colos, hyperscaler slices, hybrid cloud. And that's what TELUS is. Edge clusters. So they're getting back in talking about how AI runs the railroad, which is not exactly where we are. But it requires real-time inferencing, which is Rail Engine. Does this vibration indicate, a failure pending? So that's Rail Engine. This infrastructure layer doesn't just consume chips, it defines the chip requirements. So if you have a need for high throughput, low latency inferencing, small batches, low precision models, and you have a preference for power efficiency at the edge, and you have demand for on-the-chip security, this is where the orchestration frameworks come in. So the core AI training and orchestration gives you GPU-like AI accelerator. It's a chiplet, whatever that means. And you have the global foundries here. These are huge. On the edge and inference grid, see the rail grid, they're talking about the railroad. And then the security control plane. All of this is Railtown. And the whole idea is you're going to use AI to create the chips of the future. Chiplet style design. You want a Rail AI chiplet, Canadian owned IP, exactly, that can be integrated into larger SoCs at global foundries. And you have same sex, or is that opposite sex packaging? You have straight packaging, mixing AI cores, IO dies, and secure enclaves in a single package. So the semiconductor partners by geography in Canada or North America, they don't give any names. But offshore, you've got TSMC, Samsung, or Intel for leading nodes. Long-term, wafer allocation agreements are treated as sovereign capacity, not just a commodity. And this is going to be where Railtown's important, even though this computer is talking about the choo-choo trains sometimes. So you have to screen that out. Agentic style AI tools auto-optimize floor plans, power rails, and routing. Generative AI explores alternative chiplet architectures. What if we split the inference pipeline into two chiplets or create a new chip? Digital twins of a rail net, they're talking about the railroad, or grid generates synthetic failure mode workloads. But this can apply to any real world use case. So this reduces costly tap outs and accelerates the ramp of new nodes or packaging processes. So wafers, chips become policy assets. They're treated as a strategic resource like energy or critical minerals. And Canada will be the IP owner. And that's the goal of all these men and women in this space, is to keep the IP in Canada. Canadian entities own the AI chiplets, the firmware, and the orchestration layers. And then they farm out fabrication and packaging around the world. Takes a while to download. Let me see if Red Pepper Ronnie's filing has shown up. Hasn't yet, but I'll keep looking. It still could. All right, so here's sovereign use cases. So let's not look at the description of the railroads, but look over here in the middle, main semiconductor implication. Some, it's Canadian, but it's talking about the railroads. So let's just move on. AI application orchestration layer right here. This is Railtown. So these in the middle columns, main semiconductor implication is it drives demand for data center class AI accelerators and orchestration chips. So AI agents and chips all start working together. It's huge. Core AI factory cloud layer, the main implication, needs leading edge AI GPUs and NPUs and high bandwidth memory packages. And then edge AI infrastructure, again, just focusing on the semiconductor implication. It needs power efficient, ruggedized AI SoCs. This is a huge market, absolutely huge. And then you have the chiplet accelerator IP layer. Canadian entities will own the smarts in the silicon, even if fabrication is offshore. This is exactly what all those business people in Canada want to achieve. And then under fabrication, packaging, and testing, Canadian-owned intellectual property integrates with global fabrication and packaging. So Railtown style AI software define, and again, they're not, this isn't specifically addressing Railtown AI. I think the computer is a little confused, but it is where Railtown is. It defines the overall stack, owns high-level models, orchestrates AI workflows, and specifies chip requirements. For example, Railtown AI's rail tracks could say their agents could say we need a low latency inferencing chip for our to keep the railroad running. And AI builds it. Canadian government backs sovereign capacity agreements and really does back Canadian-owned IP, and then allocates wafers. Canadian houses, they design AI chiplets, etc., and they may license the intellectual property globally. The big boys, global boys and girls, manufactures leading edge AI accelerator dies and HBM stacked packages in return for Canadian aligned capacity commitments. And in North America, a similar thing. Canadian utilities, they're confusing Railtown with the real railroad. So the Railtown AI story, again, I'm not sure that specifically is referring to Railtown AI. I think the computer is slightly confused. However, what it's saying applies to Railtown AI. The story is scaling from a nice-to-have AI layer into a full stack, nation-adjacent infrastructure play. What started as a software-first idea for infrastructure-focused AI is now bumping up against core semiconductor strategy, data sovereignty policy, and even geopolitics. Bomb, 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 while you can. Why it feels like this is just getting bigger and bigger. You're going from an application to infrastructure. Railtown AI, again, they're talking about the stack, not necessarily our company, isn't just another SaaS product. It's becoming a vertical operating system for a bunch of usages like rail, energy, and logistics. And it demands chips, hardware, aware design, and long-term capacity. So you go from Canada only to a North American fabric. You have Canadian designed AI chiplets and edge SoCs naturally plugging into US fabrication and packaging ecosystems. You go from AI for rail, they're talking about the railroad, to AI for critical infrastructure, which is what Railtown, your company, is. Once you prove the model on the railroads, the same stack fits grid ops, ports, pipelines, and smart cities. And I would argue to you that once you prove Railtown, your company, on TELUS and on Uniserve, and maybe other places we don't know about, you get this same result. This computer is just focused on the railroad, the choo-choos for some reason. So to keep it, the story coherent, let's move on from that because the next slide, they talk about it. Railtown AI is building sovereign-grade infrastructure-first AI stack for Canadian railroads. Well, that's not true, but it might come true. For energy, that's not true yet, but it might come true. And logistics, it's not true yet, but it might come true. And Canadian-owned AI chiplets and data sovereignty-aligned semiconductor capacity. Now, that may not be true yet, but I think it's coming, or it's in negotiation, to turn critical infrastructure workloads into a North American-anchored hardware/software ecosystem. Railtown AI I'm not going to keep pointing my point out. Started as a domain-specific AI layer for railroad operations. That's simply not true. But three forces are expanding its scope. I think this is true. Infrastructure first AI. The same patterns: predictive maintenance, delay optimization, grid balancing, repeat across the railroads, energy systems, ports for boats, and smart cities. Data sovereignty. Rail and grid operators need to keep sensitive operational data local, which pushes Railtown AI toward on-premise and regional locked data centers. Again, I'm not sure what they're referring to, but it is true for your company, Railtown AI Technologies. Hardware-aware workloads, latency-sensitive, safety-critical use cases demand specialized silicon. They need specialized silicon, not generic cloud GPUs. And Railtown could play a huge role in having agents create specialized silicon chips. So that forces Railtown AI out of just software or just an app into AI infrastructure design, custom accelerator, chiplet requirements, and long-term semiconductor partnerships. This is, I would say, a whole new market for Railtown AI Technologies. I do not know if Railtown AI Technologies is here yet, but it expands your mind on how big the opportunity is for this orchestration framework layer. So you start with the railroads, and then you go to the grid and logistics, and then you go to the sovereign AI infrastructure layer, and you tie it to Canadian sovereign data centers, Canadian-owned AI chiplets and edge SoCs, and then you align it with North American semiconductor capacity. And semiconductors are going to be valuable, I think. So Railtown AI, software defines the silicon. Again, I'm not sure this computer understands what it's saying, but luckily it does apply to Railtown if this happens, if this were to happen. I don't know, I have no knowledge of this happening right now. But as agents start designing chips, Railtown, your company, has a big role that could be played. So Railtown, our company, would own the workload definitions, and that becomes the specs. Canada owns the intellectual property, not the fabricators. And then it's fabricated in the big global chip foundries, TSMC, Samsung, Intel, under long-term capacity agreements. It's packaged here in North America, if there's anything left after the Iranian war. And so Canada leverages capacity as intellectual property. You're guaranteeing wafers. And then there's the use case leverage. There's an example. So Railtown AI becomes, and again, I'm translating this. I think the computer isn't necessarily speaking directly about us, but I think it applies. Becomes Canada's sovereign infrastructure first AI stack. And then it turns all these use cases into a North American anchored semiconductor ecosystem. And that definitely can happen. So you can pitch this as we are building an AI operating system for Canada's critical infrastructure, We start with the railroads, but then we go into logistics, energy, and even driving demand for Canadian-owned AI chiplets and data sovereignty aligned with semiconductor capacity. Why it matters? Well, you prove it on the railroad. But then you have global cloud AI is too generic and too far removed from the physical world control loops. And in those control loops is your company. And Railtown AI, again, I'm not sure they're talking about our company, but the sentence fits us. We fill the gap by owning the domain-specific models, the orchestration layer, and the chip design specs. I don't know if we're there now, but it makes eminent sense that this is what's coming. So we define the specs for AI chiplets and edge SoCs. Canadian designed IP runs on globally manufactured silicon chips with Canadian aligned fabrication and packaging partners. Over time, our Railtown becomes the API layer between Canadian owned infrastructure and the global semiconductor supply chain. Canada doesn't need the fabricating factories to participate in the AI chip era. Canada can own the most valuable part, the AI workloads, the IP, and the long-term capacity agreements. There is a space there for Railtown. This Railtown AI they're talking about is more general, but Railtown AI specifically, your company can become a North American hub for sovereign grade infrastructure first AI. And the railroad becomes the first vertical, and the semiconductor stack is the AI engine. So Railtown, I'm going to assume that this applies to us, although I'm not sure the computer meant it. Railtown AI is Canada's sovereign infrastructure first AI stack, using the grid, the choo-choo trains, and logistics into a North American anchored semiconductor ecosystem. And I'm going to stop it there. But the idea of agents designing and building chips, and Railtown being that control, observability, real-time ingestion engine layer is a huge, huge market for Railtown, our company, to get into, even though the computer, I think, was confused in what it was addressing. I think it got it right by accident. All right, so red pepperoni, there's no filing. It might come tomorrow, I guess. Or it might come, it's 4:30, it might come at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Let me go to your comments. Bob's your uncle. Hi, William and everyone. Listened to your post last night from yesterday. Great information you talked about yesterday. Thanks for your work. Outstanding, sir. Yeah, I am outstanding in my own field with the cow manure and the, just kidding. But thank you very much for saying that. I always finish, particularly when there's a little bit of conflict, I always finish just kind of embarrassed by, but I just keep going because I don't mean, I really don't have ill intent. but I do fight things, and I'm wrong sometimes. But anyway, thank you, Bob. Added, wow, 1,600 more shares. That's awesome. Well, there you are. You guys are going to be rich. There's quite a few of you, guys and girls. And what I'm going to have to, one of my jobs is going to be to keep you from selling. I'm not saying there won't ever come a time to sell. And I'm not saying we need to be ever vigilant on what risks are there. But Railtown really, Bob, and it will apply to you with your position. Railtown, I think, is, well, I think the addressable market for Railtown's products and its IP is gigantic. And with the right circumstances, with things happening very quickly once they start, I think Railtown could be its own company. It doesn't have to sell itself. But why? Because I think a company that brings in revenue potentially starting out between 5, 10, 15 million a month, growing to 20, 25, 30 a month, which is all profit, all cash flow. I think they can keep up with the other engineering teams. That's a lot of cash. So it is possible that Railtown stands on its own. But they and we as shareholders are going to have to navigate, I think, a lot of buyout offers. And I think there's going to be some silly prices. A guy like Facebook, Meta, could come in with a gigantic offer just to get it, just to own it, and not be left out of the AI 2.0, if you want to call it, revolution. So if a company buys it, Bob, and I keep saying $55, but I've got to tell you, the numbers I came up with a year ago almost, and I can still sit down and come up with, are so much higher than $50. But I think people look at me as I'm completely crazy with a $55 target. I can't imagine what they would think if I decided to wipe out an entire civilization, never to come back in one night, with God on my side. What the hell is he inhaling? There might be conflict upstairs. Sounds like it. Anyway, so that's great, Bob, that you bought that much. And it's going to be my job to make sure that when you're rich, you don't squander it and you don't really change your lifestyle that much, but to try to transition a one stock type portfolio, which will make sense for quite a while, into something a little broader based and maybe generating some income with some hedges against currency decline and the stock market decline. That'll be my job later on. So I'm really proud of you. I'm not jealous. Don't think I'm jealous just because you guys are going to get rich and leave me behind. Ronald Medina, Willie Trump is making tacos. He's getting soft, and I'm a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump 3 times. And I actually think people are being unfair to him. They're saying that he's crazy, he's losing it because he's saying he's negotiating with Iran, and Iran's saying they're not negotiating. Who's running Iran? How does he know? How does anybody know what Iran's saying right now? So I don't join in with that. I don't join in that he's somehow losing his marbles. But I do think his policy is Benjamin Netanyahu's policy. And everyone around Trump is a Zionist. Every single woman and man around Trump is parroting the same warped message of Netanyahu. And this is what we end up with. So, yeah, it's very disappointing. If Trump were to declare victory and just walk around like a peacock and leave the Middle East, I'm fine with it. But we're not going back to the way things were. And everybody here needs to know that. The world, it's like the emperor with no clothes. The world has woken up to 2 or 3 things. One, the United States is not all powerful. Our weapons suck compared to Russia's and Iran's, at least in some senses. Our weapons are based on World War II. Theirs are based on hypersonic missiles, for example. Number 2, we are morally corrupt. We cannot be relied upon. We have sided with this century's Hitler, who is Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know why God set that up, but maybe he just wants to show humanity that the Germans' leadership was evil and the victims were not only 6 million Jews, there were also Catholics, homosexuals, gypsies, and others. But the movies only focus on that. But it's horrible. I mean, it makes your heart ache when you read about it, see documentaries, anything. It is awful what happened. But God, it's almost like he wants to show us that evil can come out. You know, I don't really think it's out of Jews, because Israel is, I mean, Jews are like Arabs or Christians. There's all different kinds. There's secular, there's Orthodox, there's, you know, I don't know the temple schedule, but the Catholics, there's Catholics that show up for Holy Thursday and maybe Good Friday, and then they show up for Easter, and they show up for Christmas. And then there's Catholics that go every day. So it's, you know, there's all different kinds. So I'm not sure it's Jews. I think it's Zionists. And I think the Zionists may be backed by the banks, may be backed by London. But Zionism, like a lot of isms, is out of whack. And the brainwashing and the teaching of children and the whole society that lightly brown-skinned people who happen to be many are Arabs, most are Muslims, many are Coptic or Christian, but they're all animals and they're all going to grow up to be terrorists. So we got to shoot them in the head while they're babies, or starve them, or drive out the entire population. That's just evil. It's just evil. It's the same thinking that went on in Germany. And by the way, the women in Germany joined in with the men to do it. So I think maybe God wants us to know, perhaps, that all of us are capable of evil if we get caught up in hatred and demonizing the other and thinking somehow we are chosen or we're God's special child. Every single human being is God's child. Every single human being. Even the one that you're sitting next to on the tube that didn't take a shower for a week and reeks. God loves that human being. Thank God. It's hard for me to love him, but God loves every single human being as his own children. But then we get arrogant and we think we can murder an entire population for our own benefit. That is here and now thinking. What was Hitler thinking about? Here and now, the Reich. How long did that last? What is the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu thinking? Here and now, greater Israel. Israel, as he says. He speaks like he's from Philadelphia, but he says Israel. How long is it going to last? I think it's over. I mean, there's reporting. I don't know if you can trust it, but there's reporting in Asian newspapers, reportedly, that the Ben Gurion airport is completely obliterated. But I don't know if it's true. Nobody knows if it's true. But I mean, I'd be surprised if women stay in Tel Aviv and the rest of Israel. I'd be surprised. And the husbands will follow. So you're going to have Israel, perhaps, I don't know, it's hard to predict. But the Jewish population is going to leave. They're already in Cyprus and parts of other countries. But they're going to leave, and I don't know where the Palestinians that still live, if there are any, they're going to stay. So, but Israel, like the United States did in Iraq, Israel uses depleted uranium weaponry. I don't know what they're thinking, but they bomb and destroy into the desert and the Shirokos of Gaza and Israel. And when the wind blows, all that radiation is blowing. Depleted uranium is not radiation free. And it's there forever. It's there forever. I don't know why anyone would want to live in Jared Kushner's $1 billion Gaza Strip playground. It's going to be poisoned with radioactive sand and water, but nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about that. I don't know. Let's move on. Ward Richardson, good afternoon, William and RT crew. Power rails term here is the chip's internal power delivery paths. So I'm wrong. Not the first time. So the rails term is what's inside of the chip. See, Ward, you should have read it. I didn't understand that. So that is really powerful. It's not the railroad. It's the rails inside of the chip, semiconductor chips. So if you're marrying the AI software of the tools of Railtown, the whole orchestration framework, they're not the only company, but I think they're the best in class. They're the first, even though we haven't really seen it yet, and they're going to kick everyone's butt. But when it's in the chip manufacturing process, that's huge. Chips are everywhere. Chips are everywhere. I didn't know that, Ward. Now I feel silly, but it's not the first time I've been wrong. So the power rails term is the chip's internal power delivery path, the voltage lines that feed the different parts of the circuit in the semiconductor. That's really powerful. So everything I was talking about that confused you, I was totally wrong. Bob says, thanks, Ward. Appreciate all the good information you bring to us also. Yeah, Ward is amazing. Ricky says, hi, William and RT crew. I just got on. Ward says, Bob's your uncle. Ronald Medina says, obviously, Trump is going to taco all of his buddies. Just made massive call positions on the stock market. The whole market is rigged. Personally, I don't think Trump is corrupt, but I do think people around him would trade the futures markets, and that is wrong. That's illegal, massively illegal. Let me see if that Form 7 came out. Ward, that's powerful. That is so powerful. I wish I understood it. I'm a bit of an idiot. The guilty gunner. I came from Iran. I left Islam when I was 23 years old. I saw people get killed for not believing. See, that again, that's something we don't know about. I have a lot of Iranian friends, and I think Iran had a civilization before Islam and before. I always forget. I think Shia means that it's Aya's husband who became the head guy. Muhammad's daughter's husband, or she did. I got confused. I think Sunni is Becker, and trying to remember the other guy. So it continued down the lieutenants of Becker. I think was the third. The second one was I can't remember. But anyway, I think the Sunni side just sticks with the literal Quran. And I think Shia, there's a lot of added rules and added text, I guess. I don't know. It's probably like for you, the guilty gunner, it's probably like you trying to figure out what the difference is between, I can't figure it out, what the difference is between the Episcopal Church, the Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the Southern Baptists. I mean, it's all, people die over the differences, but they're hard to explain. But anyway, I think there was civilization and religion before Islam in Iran, and I have a feeling there will be after Islam, maybe. I'd like to condemn. I do condemn that kind of killing, of course, But I'd like to blame it all on Islam. But, you know, the Catholic Church killed people, witches. They burned people at the stake. They drowned them with rocks. So it's not like the Western civilization or the Christianity in its history didn't kill its own citizens. So again, it's kind of a human, I don't know what, it's human capacity that we all think we don't have. And I certainly hope I don't have. But then it always seems to crop up. So anyway, I guess there is a side that would approve of Trump destroying the power grid and all the water for 95 million people to get rid of the radical Shia Islamists, and all that dying and suffering will be worth it, I guess. And God supports it. I guess that's the theory. I don't know. I have a hard time buying it. But I agree with you. It's terrible that people get killed for not believing. That's awful. Or for being gay, or for being Christian. You know, I think that sounds horrible. I've never visited Iran. I've never seen it. And I wouldn't go now. I wouldn't feel safe. I don't know the guilty runner. All we can do is pray for peace, and it is in God's hands. It is in God's hands. Whatever I think doesn't matter. All right, let me keep going. Ward Richardson, William, I thought the same thing. That's why I questioned early in the research you were talking about, RTAI. Yeah, I feel like an idiot now. So the rail is the rail inside of the chips. That's very powerful, and the energy too. So what Railtown AI, that the orchestration layer, the role, and there are other companies could do it too. But Railtown, just to repeat myself, I think Railtown is the best. They could help agents build the next generation and continuing generations of semiconductor chips, lay out the factories. It's very powerful. And then the chip that people are buying isn't just the sand or the glass, the silicon, it's also the embedded AI training and inference tools, Railtown. It's huge. It's really huge. Lion of many traits, but the same stripes. I guess lions don't have stripes. I am feeling super bullish, uber bullish on Railtown, plowing through $10 in the near term. Well, I don't think it would take much, Lion, for Railtown to burst into the teens. But I do think Railtown is right now under the pressure of the heaviness, and that could continue. And hey, that's life in the crappy, corrupt over-the-counter markets. And any stock under $5. But it won't last forever. But I do think, Lion, that people shouldn't expect a straight up bullet, a straight up rocket to $10. We don't know. I could be wrong, but I think it's more likely that Railtown will kind of trade. I mean, if you count on the chart, probably trades to 30, pulls back, trades to, I'm trying to remember, around 36, pulls back a bit, gets to 39, 40, pulls back a bit, gets maybe 42, 44, pulls back a bit. And it might stall in that 40 to 44 range for a while. Why? Because even if this blackout of news ends, many wealth advisors, whales, the family offices, I mean, many institutions, many private equity groups, many brokers will not buy or allow to be recommended the purchase of stocks under $5, much less stocks under $1. So I think the climb from 27 cents to $1 could be a lot of back and forthing. And then as it breaks through $1, that initial penetration, I always figured it'd go to $1.20 or so. But again, it's going to be some back and forth. And I think that could be all the way up without telling you every single dollar strike price. I think that could be the case all the way up to 5. I don't know how long it'll take, but I think the heaviness, the criminality will still be there for a while anyway. And there'll be pockets of air where it'll be volatile. But where you're right, in my opinion, where you're correct, is if Railtown's stock on high volume, and I would guess 1 million shares a day would qualify as high volume. But on high volume, if Railtown stock gets over $5 with strength and the bid closes and stays above $5 significantly, maybe a 5 1/4, 5.30, 5.40 bid. I'm not saying there might not be some pressure on it, but if it's there with strength, I don't know, it might take 2 or 3 days, but it could take a week or two. But I think once the stock is, say, $5.50, $6, it'll be $11, $12, $13 almost overnight. And once it's there, research will come out of the woodwork, and it could easily be $21, $22. But that's a lot of speculating and a lot of wild ass guessing. We'll have to see how it goes. But I do agree with you that it could plow through $10 in the near term. As long as you're talking about within 90 days, not within 2 weeks. I think if you give it in June and sooner, I think it could go through 10 very handily. But I do want people not to think of this as a trade. You do not have to get out of the stock. As it goes up and pulls back, you do not have to protect your profits, at least with what I see right now. We've got to be aware that things can change. But you don't have to have a hot hand. And when it goes to 12, you don't have to book that profit. because the criminals are going to come, or Jeremy Frommer's going to kill the deal, or the law firm is going to cancel, or the big real estate Bitcoin deal of $200 million never went through anyway, or the CEO signed some toxic financing. None of that's going to happen here. And when the stock's $10 or $20, let me just see what 11 billion does. I think it's $47. Was it $57? Let's call it $11.5 billion valuation. Yeah, that's $54, $11.5 billion. That there's plenty of companies out there that have very short lives that have been bought out in these 11.5, $13 billion ranges. And it is quite likely that Railtown's software, if you want to call it that, is exceptional, is critical, and is going to be highly sought after. So I just don't think people need to create taxable gains. I don't think people have to have a hot hand selling and then trying to buy back. If you create a profit in California, the stock's got to pull back by more than 50% to make that trade, that short-term trade, even make sense. So I really don't think people should be trying to turn Railtown into a trade. This is going to be the best ride you've ever been on. And I think the ride is going to happen whether you're on it or not. You might as well stay on it. It doesn't mean it's going to be straight up, but this ride could last for a decade. It could last for longer. It's going to change your accounts anyway. I don't know if it'll change your lives. Lion of many traits. You and Lou Sazal are my two favorite analyst champions for Railtowns. I don't know who Lou Sazal is. I'll try to figure out who he is. I didn't know. I'm glad somebody else is supporting it. There's one guy out there I don't trust. I think he's trying to show that he supports it. And then as soon as it goes to 3 or 6, he's going to say, why don't we rebalance our portfolio? You should take a third of your stock off the table, whatever. I don't trust that agenda. But I'm glad to hear there's somebody else out there supporting it. Railtown very easily could be a one decision stock. Buy it. And that's the last decision you make on that stock. It's been tough. I've lost people who I really liked who think must think I've gone unhinged because I haven't given up on Railtown. But I don't think just because the heaviness keeps suppressing the stock and the company has continued to be unable to make its own announcements about what's coming. And that doesn't just have to do with material non-public information. It could be, let me ask you, what if you had an agreement with, I'll use somebody they very well might have an agreement with, but I have no idea. What if they have an agreement, they've set up an agreement with Bell Canada to be on top of all of their data centers? And what if there's a quiet period? I know that's the wrong word. And what if they came out and said, I want to make sure the stock goes up, so I'm going to announce to people that we have a deal with Bell Canada and we're working on it. But they announce it too soon. And listen, I'm making this scenario up. This is all out of my imagination. But if they announce it, and let's say a Google ADK gets wind of it and they say, hell no, we're not letting that happen. We'll go in and we'll give our Google soup to nuts stack with our ADK. We'll give it to Bell Canada for free, and we'll keep it for free for 5 years just to get the business. So there's a lot of strategy that goes on, Lion. And I would imagine what's happening over at Railtown right now. They have more business flowing in their door than they can say grace over. And if I were in their shoes, and I have been before in my life, not on their scale, but in my little world, if everybody else is going drinking or everybody else is bragging about their business they're doing, but I'm starting to just do a ton of business, I sit and do my business and make sure I get it done. And at the end of the month, when the leaderboard comes out, people will figure it out. But I'm not out there tooting my horn. I'm focused on doing the business. Oh, shit. Iran rejects Trump's call for ceasefire. We've only got 3 hours till hell. It's going to make me sick to my stomach. Deadline drums. Trump says we're in heated negotiations. Well, there you go. As Iran and United States review 2-week ceasefire plan. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Donald Trump says he is in heated negotiations with Iran over a 2-week ceasefire deal. He's got to let them keep hammering. They won't trust Israel. As a U.S. deadline threatening strikes on infrastructure looms. Trump has been briefed on a ceasefire proposal brokered by Pakistan, which is mediating between the two sides. A senior Iranian official said Tehran is positively considering Pakistan's request for a 2-week ceasefire. Trump has vowed to strike Iran's civilian infrastructure, including energy sites and bridges, unless the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. The president refused to comment on the drafted plan, telling Fox News, I can't comment because right now we're in heated negotiations. Any extension would mark the 4th time Trump has shifted the goalposts since he first threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants on March 21. Trump posted on Truth Social this morning, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. Senator Ron Johnson, a staunch Trump ally, said, quote, "I think it would be a huge mistake. I mean, he loses me if he attacks civilian targets. Whatever we do has to be within the laws of warfare," unquote. All right, Ward Richardson. William, the chips industry will dwarf the data and software industry. I don't know about software, but chips will dwarf. You mean marrying chips with software? Yeah, okay. It's huge, Ward. It's huge. I didn't know what they meant by Railtown / AI. I mean, dash AI, but now you've explained it. That is gigantic. Ricky Brogan, why I give TELUS 50% to buy RRT. Canadians want to keep their sovereignty in Canada. Yeah, but I don't think RT has the wherewithal to pay $25. They might be able to. $25 is what, 6 billion? They could afford 6 billion. If it's all stock, they could afford it. But if the bidding gets to $50, $70, $80 a share, and that might be dreaming, I'm not sure they can afford that. It's a $30 billion company. But they have a new CEO. I think he understands AI. I think TELUS is shifting to AI, but he's got a Merrill Lynch background and he's finance. Play with the dividend. He might sell off units. He might get rid of the project in Northwest Territories to make sure that every caribou stag has a cell phone installed in their antlers so that they can be a hot spot for all of the native Canadians or whatever. He might cut back on a lot of that. But the good side is he would probably be able to get the financial support for a big buyout. And if Railtown were sold to TELUS at, let's say, $26 a share for stock, based on today's price, which obviously can change, we would get 2 shares of TELUS for every 1 share of Railtown. It would be a tax-free, or more accurately, a tax-deferred event. And then we'd start collecting, $1.29 a year in dividend per share. And we get 2 of those shares. We'd be collecting $2.50 a share in a dividend on a stock we paid 50 cents for. I mean, if it happens. There's so many things that you can fantasize about. Garg Medical, how are you? I don't know where the news would be. And I don't know if I have enough to talk about to stay on till 8 o'clock. But I can try. I guess I can try. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz, the headline is "Out of Control. Trump's bombastic threats on Iran risk catastrophe. Electricity war will target civilians. IDF orders immediate evacuation of all residents in the southern Lebanese city of Tyre ahead of strikes on Hezbollah. The Israelis, the certain kind of Israelis, they don't stop. While the world is focused on Iran, they keep gobbling up somebody else's country. They never stop. They're relentless. United States weighs Iran deadline extension as Iran reviews Pakistani request for a 2-week ceasefire. IDF warns of a surge in Iranian missile fire at Israel ahead of Hormuz ultimatum. Russia and China veto UN resolution condemning Iran's Strait of Hormuz closure. Commies. See, that's the new alignment. That's Iran, Russia, and China. Among them, they control, reportedly, they probably control, 15 to 20% of the world's oil and gas. And the population is probably, if you believe China's population, it's approaching probably 1.8 billion. They have the economic power. They're not in the Western financial system. China is, but China has hedged itself. I think China owns the most of the world's gold, physical gold and physical silver. And anyway, there you go. That's what's going to be the change. I bet the UN gets moved out of New York. The UN, where would be a good place for it? Not Europe. I doubt it would go to the Middle East. It might go, it's possible, I suppose, it goes to Leningrad or something, or maybe China, but maybe the UN goes to Singapore, or maybe it goes to New Delhi or somewhere else in India. Maybe someplace in Africa. But I think the UN is going to leave New York. I'm telling you, this disastrous and bloody stupid decision to believe Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a congenital liar, it's going to change everybody's life. This is the before and after event in your lifetime and mine. I thought it was the poster of Farrah Fawcett, but it turns out it's this. We lost you all. Family killed in Iranian missile strike in Haifa, laid to rest. Trump ahead of Hormuz deadline. Iranian civilization probably will die tonight. If that doesn't want to make you want to vomit, I don't know. Kenai West is barred from UK. Greece to buy Elbit rocket launcher system from Israel. Why Israelis are losing faith in the Iran war. This is an Israeli newspaper. A toxic Israel-U.S. relationship nears its breaking point by Gideon Levy. I can't read the articles because I don't, it's behind a firewall. I hope it breaks. I think they should invite all disgruntled Israelis, come live in the United States. Open arms. Serbia is poised to produce drones with Israel. See, that's what Iran's got to worry about. With the world focused on Iran, Ukraine stuns Russia in the Mediterranean. While Israelis died in the rubble, Netanyahu lashed out at two familiar targets. Let me guess, Iran and Hezbollah. Which I guess, that's serious stuff. Roger Alfer. Netanyahu's obsession with Iran rivals only Captain Ahab's. Iris Leal, from cheerleading to denial, how Israel stopped questioning war. Akiva Novik, from Lebanon to Gaza, leaders promise military victories they can't deliver. France opposes U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iranian infrastructure. Well, in fairness, the mysterious Iran-linked terror group attacking Jewish targets in Europe. Anyway, I won't read any more of those. Let's see if they filed that Form 7. No, they haven't. So we'll leave that alone. All right, I'm not gonna torture you with my commentary. We are just over 19 million shares in Railtown, and I congratulate each of you. This is great. And I think I agree with Lion. This has the potential of rapidly going into the teens. But don't expect a miracle. Don't expect it to be overnight. There'll be volatility. But at the same time, don't feel like you have to sell out of it. You don't have to protect it. When this goes up, it's not going to disappear. The value of this stock as it goes up is not going to, the rug isn't going to be pulled out from under your account like it was in MMTLP, it was in MMAT, it was in CRTD, it was in several times in FNGR, it was in GTII, it was in I guess twice in logic. It was in, name it, Nixie, GDC, G-Bucks, ZJYL. This is not that situation. If you take a quick profit, you're going to regret it. And you won't get back in as it goes up. If Lion's correct, and this goes to $10, that's $200 million worth of buying stock. And at that point, you'll be able, if you want to, and I don't suggest it, I would just never do it again. But if you for some reason want to go dabble in all these manipulated stocks, you can buy more shares in those stocks using just 1 or 2% of your account if the stock were $10 than you can right now. So don't feel like you're missing an opportunity if you get out of all the shitty stocks and go into this one for now. 31 days from now, 90 days from now, it could be longer. Just with a sliver of your account, you'll be able to replace all the crap if you want to. Take new positions in the crap. I really think you got to get away from it. It's like crack cocaine. You're going to lose. Might feel good to be in it for a little while, but you're going to lose. If you need that instant high, go to the casino or set up a separate account and just trade 10 grand over there. But when this goes up, you're going to have that kind of independence, believe it or not. And many of you may never have experienced it. I have. I don't have it now, but it's real. And it feels good, because even though it's an illusion, probably, you feel like you have some control, some say-so in your life, and you can take care. You can help people. You can help your family. You can help your loved ones. I don't know. You can get a dog. But if 19 million shares went to 55, I already told you that. I already told you what that would be. We'd have $1 billion collectively. And if we wanted to start a lobbying firm or an association, good gosh, we could do it. We would have power. And by the way, 55 isn't the whole story, I don't think. But we'll have to pay close attention as things go on. Jack Hamilton, I'm still stuck out of town for a few days. Best wishes to you, sir. And all RT enthusiasts. I did get 50 more. I love it, Jack Hamilton. I love it. You're going to catch up with Donna if it's the last thing you do. But Donna might have plans to move out ahead. Ward Richardson, Ricky Brogan, RT does not have to sell their company. I agree. They will use licensing rights, and that's the way they can keep all of the IP and the profits in Canada. That's a good point, Ward, because that's the goal of John Ruffalo for sure. That's a good point. They don't have to sell. But you don't have to sell either. You don't have to sell your Railtown. Just remember that. You don't have to sell it. All right. It's 5:30. I think I'll leave it there. I thank everyone for tuning in, and I wish each of you peace tonight. I pray for peace in the world. I pray under this stress that the the Iranians can somehow trust Trump, and Trump can somehow show trust. I don't think anyone trusts Netanyahu. And, you know, if the Iranians did allow the Straits of Hormuz to open, Trump could say he won. And then everything calms down and we can go back. It'll never go back the way it was, but we can adjust in a more careful way. So I pray for peace, and I pray for everybody, this, particularly the women and children and the men, the civilians who are being killed and harmed in Israel, and the men, women, and children who are being killed in Iran. But of course, there's a war going on in Ukraine and in Russia. I pray for them. I pray for people being killed throughout the Middle East, including U.S. Citizens and soldiers. And I pray it can stop. But I thank you all for, oh, here's one more comment. Ricky says to Ward, now that's what I would like to happen, to have Railtown stay as a standalone company. That would be really powerful, Ricky. It would be really powerful. I was talking to Ward, I think, 2 days ago, and I'm not going to say the number. I wouldn't say it, but the number he thinks that Railtown could be as a standalone company, I mean, it's big. That's why I don't want you to sell early. I really don't. And Ward knows what he's talking about. So anyway, with that, I'll say ciao, and I wish everybody a good evening. Peace.